Welcome to Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad, the podcast that prepares you for one of life's toughest yet inevitable moments, stepping in when your parents need you most. Hosted by Chris Spade, a senior real estate specialist with Keller Williams Realty. We'll dive deep into more than just moving. We're talking smart financial planning, making tough decisions with confidence, and strategies to avoid being caught in crisis mode. Join us for real stories, expert insights, and actionable steps to stay ahead of the curve. Now, here's your host, Chris Spade.
And welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad, the podcast where we help Gen Xers navigate our lives and our aging parents. I'm your host, Chris Spade with Keller Williams Realty right here in San Diego. Now, we're bringing back Lacey Italiano. She was on a previous episode. We talked all things taxes, and I learned a lot of things that I didn't even know. Now, in this episode, in addition to her tax expertise, Lacey serves as a licensed fiduciary, offering trusted financial stewardship to seniors and their families. Now, in this capacity, she manages assets, oversees financial affairs, and ensures that her clients' financial decisions align with their best interests and personal wishes. Lacey's fiduciary services are characterized by integrity, transparency, and a deep commitment to the well-being of those that she serves. Now, her dual expertise as both a tax professional and fiduciary allows her to provide a holistic financial guidance and ensures that all aspects of her clients' financial lives are managed with care and precision. Lacey, welcome back to Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad.
Thank you again for having me.
I'm so excited that you're back. So I didn't even know what a fiduciary was until about 2 years ago. I didn't know that those were things that really existed. But can you explain what a fiduciary is and how you assist seniors in particular? Like what does a fiduciary do?
Okay. So a fiduciary in the state of California is a state-regulated license, and we are legally and ethically obligated to act in the best interest of our client. And there's a few different ways that we can serve as a fiduciary. We can work with people that might not have full capacity, that need some help with their paying their bills, arranging care, provided like maybe they don't have family members that are close by to help with those things, or maybe they don't want to put the burden on the family members, or maybe they just don't have younger family. And so they need somebody to kind of help with those things while they're still alive. Another capacity a fiduciary can fill is after the person has passed away. And maybe they didn't have somebody they could put in as a trustee. I can serve as a successor trustee. I can also be an administrator of an estate or a probate that goes to the court. In fact, right now I am an administrator of 2 separate probates that are going through the California court. I have an attorney colleague that I work very closely with who came to me and said, on this one case, the family members are older, they live in another state, they don't want to do this. So can you step in and manage this? And then on the other one, same thing. It's an out of the country thing. The family is not even citizens of the United States. There's just happens to be a U.S. component to the estate. Mm-hmm. So they needed somebody to step in and administer that probate as well. So I often use my license to consult with my clients who are stepping into a role to help their parents, whether that's pre or post passing. So oftentimes clients will come in and they're now taking care of or overseeing their parents' financial matters. Mm-hmm. And I will, if I get the opportunity, I immediately start talking to them about what they're going to need to continue to do after passing. Mm-hmm. Because oftentimes people step into these roles and they have no idea what they're going to be facing.
Yep. Yeah. In fact, with my friend, which is why I started this podcast, I had somebody, one of the senior placement agents, she asked me, she said, well, she'll probably need a fiduciary. Do you want to step into that role? And my immediate words to her were like, hell no. And the big reason for that is first of all, at that time, I really didn't know what that responsibility was going to be. And, running my business, having my life, and, I just didn't want to take that on. But the big thing was, I just didn't want the responsibility of having to deal with the family down the road in case there was like any sort of, you took money, you did this. And so I just didn't want that. You know what I mean? So I was like, nope, I don't want it. I don't want the responsibility. So it's a good thing that people like you exist.
Yeah, absolutely. And I learned about him back in 2010, 2011. Did not know what a professional fiduciary was, did not know they existed. I was married at the time, and my husband at the time's father had passed away. And unfortunately, a neighbor and friend of his late wife had come in 3 weeks prior to his passing while he was on hospice care in home and facilitated a revision of the trust with an attorney from Irvine, and his father lived in Vista, and took complete control over all of the assets until my husband, who was under 30 at the time, was to be 55 years old, with 100% discretion on how to distribute money to him and a lifetime estate in his father's property.
Wow.
So we obviously did not have a good relationship with this woman. She was a caregiver capacity, and in the state of California, a caregiver cannot monetarily benefit off of a patient or client if they're in a caregiver role. That is not typically allowed in the state of California. We did not have a good working relationship with this woman, and so we fought it.
Yeah.
And in the fight, we said, if this is what his dad truly wanted and wanted somebody to control the money until he's 55 years old, we're fine with that, but we want a professional in charge. Because professionals in California who are licensed come with education, they come with insurance, they come with bonds. There is a regulatory body that oversees that license and that professional. And she wasn't even willing to turn it over to a professional.
Well, that's a red flag.
It was a huge red flag. So that was what first made it on my radar, what a professional was. And then when we lost several $100,000s fighting this woman,
Whoa.
I decided that this could not happen on my watch anymore. And I immediately began looking into what a professional fiduciary was. I knew it would go well hand in hand with my tax practice, and it would help me because I have a lot of senior clients, and obviously none of us are getting any younger.
Nope.
So I've had a lot of my clients with me for 10, 12 years, and they are aging. And I do have frequently every year more and more of their family members or children stepping into a caregiver type role. And caregiving on any level, whether it's financial, physical, mental, or all of the above, can be very draining on the person giving the care, and they need a good support system. Yeah.
Well, that is unfortunate what happened to you, but it's good that you're there for other people now. So, it was an experience that brought you to where you were. And that's, I feel like how a lot of us end up where we're at right now. Right.
Yep. And we didn't lose everything. And we made the best out of what we did get. And we were lucky that we had some great attorneys that helped us towards the end of the situation. But it was like a 2-year thing. It was a 2-year ordeal. And we were a young couple at the time. It was pre-having our son. And so it's stressful, especially when you're mourning the loss of a parent. I mean, he was locked out of his dad's house for over a year.
That's terrible.
And it was devastating. And so I never want to see that happen to any of my clients or anybody really. And that's why I'm here today with you and why I got the license that I got, so that there are ethical, honest people that are out there to educate and to assist. And I do utilize a lot of my fiduciary license with consulting. I don't do a lot of conservatorship type work with seniors that are alive. I'll absolutely step into that role if it's necessary. But I do a lot of trust accounting. I do a lot of probate accountings. I do administrate the probates. But I really enjoy being able to take the time when a family member or a child steps into a role and they're just 100% overwhelmed, don't know what to do, and I can give them the guidance and direction they need and feel like they've got somebody behind them and the support that they need.
That's awesome. So what are the main financial responsibilities you take as a fiduciary for seniors?
So the main financial stuff would be things in terms of bill pay and, making sure that their bills are paid on time, their care is coordinated. Oftentimes a fiduciary that's working with a human being before passing also has to help coordinate their care and determine what level of care they need. And then that can branch into finding an assisted living facility or maybe even a memory care facility, determining whether the person can be at home. We all want to work to be able to keep seniors at home, but we know there are situations where it's unsafe for them to be at home. And then it's, can they financially afford it? If they can't afford to be put into a facility, what resources are out there that can help them to be in a situation that is going to be conducive to their own care, they're going to be comfortable in, and it's going to be a safe environment for them.
So how do you help seniors manage their assets to ensure long-term financial stability? Because some people only have so much money. So how does that happen?
So as a fiduciary, it's our responsibility. And I'm not a licensed financial advisor by any means. It's my responsibility to find trusted advisors that can help maybe invest some of the money that they need in semi-liquid, but more higher interest bearing accounts. And we have to know that we're working with financial advisors that also act in a fiduciary capacity, because if I turn that over to a professional and they maybe put it in too much of a risky investment and the money doesn't gain the way it should, I can be held responsible for that under my license. So I have to vet the people that I use well also. It would take something like a durable power of attorney so that I can reach out to the banks. I can make sure that I have access to their accounts to pay the bills. I can contact the different companies, and then potentially talking to places like Medicare, Social Security, looking into things like IHSS, depending upon what their assets are and what their needs are. There's not a lot of resources out there for people that have assets over a few $1,000s. So they really, if they have assets, we have to learn how to make that work for them, whether that's in terms of a reverse mortgage and or investments that will help sustain them for their life. But I did have a client that it looked like he was going to outlive his money. He did not, but we were paying $60,000 to $80,000 a year for his in-home care.
Wow.
And it was, the money was going pretty quickly. And we were looking at having to potentially downsize him. He was living in a penthouse down on 6th Avenue at the time. That was pretty pricey. He had been there for 30 years. There was a lot of personal belongings. And if he was going to outlive his money, we were going to have to find alternatives. And that can be disruptive and cause anxiety for a senior.
Yeah, and that's the big thing, especially you brought up something really good is when they have a lot of personal belongings. It's not like as a family member or a real estate agent or whoever they have helping them, you just can't come in and just start chucking all that stuff because that's their life, right? And so you just have to, we're bringing on the gals from Sorted Out San Diego are going to come on and talk specifically about, how do you downsize seniors in such a way that, you don't make them feel like you're just throwing their life away. So that's important. But you brought something up, and that kind of leads me into the next question that I wanted to. So what's your process for ensuring seniors' financial wishes are honored?
Well, I have the conversation with them, provided they're in of capacity. Mm-hmm. At that point in time, you have the conversations with them directly, find out what they want and don't want. And then if they don't already have a trust established that kind of reiterates that, then my first goal would be like, okay, we need to go and meet with a qualified attorney. We need to make sure that all of these things are on paper and written down. Whether that's in way of, like I said, a power of attorney, a durable power of attorney, which is only in existence while the person is alive. The
Right.
durable power of attorney dies with the person.
Yes.
So then the next document that would come into play
Is
at
the
the
trust.
passing would be a trust.
Yes. Yes.
So we want to make sure that the wishes are communicated and documented. And then really I try to encourage my clients to have that open and honest communication with their children, beneficiaries, whoever it is that this will impact during and after the person's life. Sometimes people, seniors, are really private about that and they don't want to communicate it, and you can't force them. You can only
Right.
let them do what's with their comfortable level, and then you have to make sure that it's in writing.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like you have to have some tough conversations with people, and then you're almost a coach and trying to coach them into having these tough conversations. But you're right. If they don't want to have those conversations, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, and you have to keep their, information private. Yeah.
And then I have to deliver that news after the person passes and I'm in charge. And then I'm the one that has to basically tell the beneficiaries, this is what your family member wanted. This is how it's going to be administered. And, I will answer questions for them, but I don't work for the beneficiaries. I work for the client and their document, their trust after they pass.
Yeah. Yeah. So, can you share an example of how you helped a senior navigate a complex financial decision?
So, trying to think of one specific one. I've only had one case where I worked with a woman after her wife of 30 years had passed away, and the wife basically was the one that did a lot of the finances, took care of all of that stuff, and they brought me in together. The wife that passed had cancer and knew she had been fighting for 3 years and knew it was coming to an end. And so they actually brought me in and interviewed me together. And, I explained that I would be there to be able to help her navigate all of the stuff that was going to come into play in terms of her benefits from the wife that was passing, and help her stay on track with paying her bills, helping her with maintenance and maintaining the property. They had a duplex and half of it was rented out. And also the client, the surviving spouse, had a small business at the time as well. So I was able to come in and get the durable power of attorney and different documents. And then when the taxpayer spouse passed away, I was able to help the surviving spouse navigate getting her benefits from UCSD, where the spouse had worked and had benefits. We were able to help her get her Social Security adjusted based on the spouse that had passed away. We were able to get some of the money to help her pay down. She wanted to pay down her solar loan, so we could take out money from the retirement, but I could also help her plan for the taxes on that, make sure we had enough withholding from the distribution she was taking, pay off some of the loans to reduce some of the monthly bills, and then help her kind of revisit her trust. She had certain things that she thought she wanted for the property when she was going to pass that changed after the passing of her spouse. Unfortunately, that I did not keep that client. This was my first live human interaction as a fiduciary and not just running a trust or a probate. I tend to get very attached. And she was also the type of personality that also got very attached. And she was lonely and she wanted a companion. And as a fiduciary, there are certain things I can't do as a professional. I can't take gifts. I can't, really go and have meals and be a companion. And that was hard for her to understand. And so ultimately we parted ways and she found a different fiduciary that could step in more of a role that wasn't going to blur that line of companionship.
And that's interesting, because I didn't know that. And that's important. And I think people hearing that, especially if, it's for their family, they want to know somebody that you're about the business, right? And that's important to them. So I think that's really cool. So how do you work with seniors and their families to balance their needs to protect the senior's best interest?
My biggest thing with my clients is call me before you do something. Don't call me. Call me after, of course, because we can try to mitigate any potential issues, but it's always best if you get the advice first. And I always welcome my clients to call and email at any time. No question is wrong. No question is dumb ever. No question is too small or too large. And I always tell them, if I don't know the answer, I know that I've got a really good group of colleagues behind me. And if I can't find the answer or the service, I will be able to get you to somebody who can. So it's all about communication. That's the biggest thing, is communication. And then having the documents on hand so I can review them. Obviously, I get at least a handful as my seniors are aging even more. I've got clients that are in their mid-90s still. And so I'm having more and more children come in, adult children, and going, I'm handling my parents' taxes now. Okay, well, I need to see where you have that authority. I need to have a durable power of attorney on file before I can start giving you information, or I've got to have the client who is of capacity give me permission in writing to do that. And then we put that on file, and I oftentimes have the adult children ask questions, call and ask questions. And once we have that authorization on file, then we can work with them. And that opens up for bigger conversations.
So everything needs to be in writing. That's the message. That's the big message.
It is really the big message. If you want certain things, it really does need to be in writing, preferably a trust.
Yeah. No, I think that's insane. We're coming back to that. And I'm excited to be talking to our attorney partner so we can have that conversation about the trust, because the trust is so important. What should seniors and their families look for when they select a fiduciary?
The biggest thing you want to look for, you can go onto the California Bureau of Professional Fiduciaries and research their license, just like you can with an attorney or a CPA. You can see if they've had any disciplinary action. I would definitely make sure you're with somebody who's licensed. I would get a referral to somebody, maybe from the estate planning attorney that you use. They could potentially have some really good references. Your tax professional. Also, once you do establish these documents like a trust, it's always good to get cards for your tax professional, your fiduciary, should you choose to have one, your attorney, and interchange all of those with all of those professionals. So if and when that day comes that you have everything in one place, your beneficiary or your fiduciary who is stepping into the role now has all of these professionals' information so that they can reach out, and then those professionals can all work together to assist either you or your family members, your beneficiaries, to start moving the administration of the trust along after your passing.
That's good advice. So how do you help seniors avoid scams or financial exploitation? Because that's a big thing.
It is a big thing. And unfortunately, because I'm not always working in a fiduciary capacity with my clients, most of my work with my clients, like I said, is on a tax level. All we can do is try to educate them. Oftentimes in my capacity as a tax professional, I hear about it after the fact. When I'm working in a fiduciary role, I am going to monitor their accounts on a regular basis. I'm going to monitor their credit. I'm going to advise them to not click on links in emails if they're using that type of text. I'm going to recommend they call me before they give any information over the phone. One of my biggest things with seniors is if they get an email or a text message or somebody calls, I always tell them, disconnect, hang up, call somebody that you trust. Or let's say you get a text message that says there's been fraud on your bank account. I tell them, don't click on that link. Go get your debit card, call the phone number on the back of your debit card. Go directly to the source from a number that was not provided in that initial communication. Sometimes it can get hard to educate clients, and a lot of things come in after the fact. So then we do things like pull the credit reports, maybe put a notice on the credit reports that there might have been, some type of a breach. But the biggest thing is education, and to just let them know that it's okay to hang up the phone. If there is something out there, we'll find it and we'll take care of it.
I hang up the phone all the time because I get spam calls all the time, and it's click. I have no.
I kind of run. He's more of an accounting and a tax client, and he's not really a senior. He's barely 62. To me, that's not. I mean, it is, but it isn't a senior. And he does some tech stuff, but he'll screenshot things to me, or he'll call me. And he got a text the other day, or a phone call, and they said it was from Wells Fargo fraud department, and that some person by the name of Rachel was trying to use his account. And I told him, don't give them any information, hang up, call back and call the number on your debit card directly to Wells Fargo. Turned out it was a spam call, and it seemed very legitimate.
Wow, that is crazy. There are just some shady people out there.
And it's getting worse and worse. And unfortunately, they target the senior community because
it's easy.
Vulnerable.
Yeah, it's easy for them. It's easy. So what are the most common issues seniors face that a fiduciary can help resolve?
I often get questioned when a senior is, number one, maybe they don't have family. It does happen. Like I said, I am on a probate right now. The woman was in her late 90s. She was living up in Carlsbad on her own. The family was kind of estranged and in another state. And after she passed, I didn't step in until quite a while after, but they just came in. They took what they wanted out of the unit. They didn't worry about any of the other belongings. They took whatever money they wanted out of the bank account. They left her cat locked in the unit in the condo. There was, we thought there was squatters potentially going in there.
No.
And they just kind of left everything. And so the attorney that was in charge of all of this brought me in. Luckily, the attorney actually went and got the cat and took it to where it could get care, but nobody knew it was locked in there. The family just didn't care. So if they're estranged from their family and they don't have somebody they can trust, a professional can be a good resource. Oftentimes I have clients that ask because they don't want their children to be burdened with it. Perhaps they had to step in that role and they knew what an undertaking it was by the end of the process. And they've decided they don't want their kids to have to worry about that while they're grieving.
Yep.
So they've looked into other alternatives. And there are sometimes, like you said, a lot of people are moving out of California. So there might be a senior here, but their kids are out of state. And the kids are... I just had one, a tax client. We filed 5 years of taxes for him. His daughter had to fly out here from another state to help him gather all of his tax documents, because although he has an adult son living with him, my assessment of the situation was he doesn't necessarily trust the son, but he trusts the daughter.
Yep. So
it took the daughter having to come out and help him gather all the paperwork. He had it all. He was a prior accountant. In a previous life, but he lost his wife back in 2020.
Yep.
And his wife of 30 plus years, and that was hard for him, and he just kind of stopped doing things after he lost his wife. So the daughter had to come out and during the holidays and spend a significant amount of time going through all the paperwork. He had it. It was all, put together and nicely organized once she helped him. But she had to come out here from her home and spend a significant amount of time to do that.
Yeah.
So that's another role where a fiduciary could come in handy. It can avoid having to spend expensive trips out to visit an extensive amount of time to help gather that. If you have a fiduciary close by that you trust, they can help get those documents together as well. But it's always good to have the senior on board as well, because they have to trust that person just as much as the adult children might. Well. The biggest thing is the seniors feeling like they're losing control. Exactly.
And that's important. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's the other thing I've reiterated to some of my Gen X, clients who are involved. I'm like, you can't let them give up control. That's super important. It's super important.
And they start little by little as the aging process continues. They slowly but surely start to feel like every facet of their life is being taken away from them.
Yep.
So the more you can include them in the decision making and let them know that this is their choice. You're just here to help, to be a support and help them facilitate what they want, and not make them feel like you're taking their power away from them. There is nothing more detrimental than going in and taking away their checkbook and taking away their access to things and taking total control. I mean, I had a great aunt I used to take care of, and she loved her checkbook. She wanted to have her checkbook, and so taking that from her was just another way of taking away some of her control.
Yeah, which is not what we want to do. Not at all. And final question, what advice would you give seniors and their families when creating or updating any sort of financial plan?
Discuss all options. Openly and actively discuss all options and bring in the necessary professionals to get the appropriate information that you need. Don't get it from somebody's neighbors, friends, niece, Google. It's not a time to do it yourself. You will get the benefit out of every dollar you spend on a qualified professional. I always try to tell people, it may seem like it's expensive to pay for it, but it will save you a lot of time and money on the back end to do it right the first time.
Yep.
So it's always beneficial to have a consultation, even if that means having to pay for that consultation, and having a significant support system, either around the people you choose to place in charge of your affairs or to hire a professional. And as long as that professional is ethical, they're doing the right thing, they're licensed, they're bonded, they're worth every penny.
Excellent. Lacey, is there anything I haven't asked you that you think that we should cover?
I do not have anything that's popping out like I did in the prior episode. I'm sure something will come to me later, but I'm hoping that we'll have lots more of these episodes.
And for sure. You're coming back again. You'll be coming back again. Actually, everybody I've talked to, I'm going to have them back again because now, like my reverse mortgage gal, now that she's going to be able to talk about, working with my clients, we're going to talk about specific scenarios. So yeah, I'm bringing people back. You've got to, that is what commitment you have to make to me.
Absolutely. I am so on board with this. I was, like I have told you personally, super excited to see that you were doing this. It's definitely something that needs to be out there for not only our seniors, but for their support systems, for their adult children, grandchildren, family members, friends, anybody who's going to end up stepping into a caregiver capacity. But while these seniors are of capacity, they need to be involved in this process and be made to feel like they still have power over their situation, but also feel supported in the event that they do or are no longer in capacity. It's really about communication and having a reliable support system.
Lacey, thank you for being back with us. I truly, truly appreciate it. And thank you everyone for tuning back into another episode of Moving Mom and Downsizing Dad. We will be back again next week, and I can't wait to catch you on the next one. Thanks a lot, everyone. Bye-bye.